Hello and welcome to this pit stop for Pandemic Fall of Rome, a game designed by Leacock and Paolo Mori and published by Z-Man Games. In Pandemic Fall of Rome, the players are playing as Rome, I guess, in the 5th century, and they're attempting to halt the invasion from these barbarian tribes and trying to prevent Rome from being sacked at the end of the day. Now, the threat we're facing in this one are these barbarian tribes, and they all start up here in these supply areas, and they'll be moving along chains trying to get to Rome and to sack cities on the way. And the way that's controlled is by this deck of threats here, and similar to other pandemic games, at the end of a player's turn, they're going to have some cities invaded depending upon what the invasion level is, and they will turn cards over, forcing cubes to appear on the board. So for example, if we turn over Yuvavum here for the Huns, we look there, and now there is already a Hun present there, so we can invade that city and that will get added. If that was not there already, we'd look back along the supply chain back to the supply area for whatever that tribe is. Now there are cubes adjacent to it, meaning we could even move in there anyway. But if the situation looked like this and we drew a Mediolanum card, we wouldn't put a cube in there because there's not one there and there's not one adjacent, and we go back along, so it would in fact go back in Yuvavum as we discussed. And a lot of the games do that supply chain where the invaders come in and fighting them back to their homeland. For example, if we've got Aquileia here, we would again check this and the blue Ostrogoths would appear in Aquileia. However, this is defended by legions. If a barbarian is going to appear in a city where there are legions and the legions don't have any other support, there's no fort or player there, then all the legions will come off the board and that barbarian would not appear, Aquileia having been defended. If, however, for example, these Visigoths were going to appear in Tyras, there are legions here, but there is a player or a fort that happens to be both here. Just one legion would disappear, and again, that barbarian would not come in, and we'd have defended that city. If we drew, for example, the Caesarea card here, there's no Vandal in there. There's no Vandal adjacents. We count backwards until we got to one with a Vandal in. There we go, Caesar Augusta. And therefore, the Vandal would appear in Corduba down there. And that's how the appearance of the barbarians happens. They come in chains and fight along paths. And by having legions in their way, you're going to block them and stop them from appearing on the board. Now, this deck is seeded. There are gold cards in there, and there are also going to be red cards, and the game always starts with the red cards in the discard pile and the gold cards. There's 9 of them. They are the cities which are first seeded. They're the initial cities that have barbarians appear in them, and all the red cards are the Roma cards because all barbarians are eventually trying to get to Roma, and they will all be in the discard pile at the beginning of the game, so you know that that's going to constantly come up, that these initial cities will be under threat and Rome will be under threat. Now if we did turn over this Carnuntum card, there are already 3 Huns in there, therefore we can't add any more, and that city is going to get sacked. The decline marker will move down 1, and instead of adding 1 to that city, we'd add 1 to every adjacent city, whether it's on the usual invasion path or not. And if you added 1 to a city that already had 3 cubes, that again will get sacked. It would move down and it would explode out, but not back to one that had already been sacked on this turn. Now, as I said, there's these Roma cards in here, and all the barbarians are attempting to get to Roma, and that's one of the ways in which the players can lose the game. If ever the barbarians make it to Rome and sack it by 3 of a colour appearing, then that's it, game over. There are other ways in which the players can lose the game. For example, if the decline marker ever gets all the way down to the bottom, that's an instant loss for the team. Also, if you had to add barbarians and there were none left in the supply area, that's an instant loss. And the last way you can lose is if you have to go to draw player cards and there are none left in the deck. You can't draw your 2. So that's standard. Before we do the invasion, as with lots of pandemic, you're going to draw 2 player cards after you've had your actions in a turn. So what's in that player card deck? Well, there are cards of the various colours of cities, and they relate to cities, and they'll go in your hand, and they're going to help you take actions, and eventually they're going to help you win the game. Again, very similar to other pandemic games. And there are also revolt cards in there, similar to epidemics and other versions, in which we're going to increase the invasion rate. We're going to add 3 barbarians to a random city, in this case Constantinopolis, and then we're going to shuffle up the discard pile and put them back on top, so that those Rome cards, those gold cards, and whatever we've drawn will constantly come up and up again, so we have an idea where to focus our efforts. The last thing that can appear in that player deck are events. Now, player number dependent on how many events appear in there, and there's a bunch of them. You shuffle up random ones, and they're the standard sort of thing you'd expect in the pandemic. For example, allowing you to remove barbarians after a battle, which we'll get to, more barbarians from the board, or allowing you to draw additional cards, or draw fewer cards from the invasion deck, or build more forts to help you defend, as we've seen, or rearrange the top cards of the deck, and they all have thematic Latin names on them. So that's what we're fighting against, and we're drawing the card. But what do we actually do on our turn? Now, each of the players are going to get to take 4 actions, again, standard for Pandemic, before they start drawing those cards. You can march. You can march along a land route or a sea route for 1 action and simply go to an adjacent city, and you can take up to 3 legions with you if you wish to, and you can just use your actions to move slowly around the board. The other way to move around the board is from a port to another port with these anchor signs, and you have to discard a card which matches the colour of the destination. So for a white or black card, I could take these legions with me over here to Athenae, helping my defence. The other thing you can do is plot. If you're in the same city as another player, you can exchange. You can give or take the card off that city to help you build up hands. What else can we do? Well, we need to fight back against these barbarians. If you're in a city and you discard that city card, you can build a fort, and as we've seen, that will help you defend. Now, there are a limited number of forts, so if you choose to build one, let's say, for example, we wanted one in here, you could take one from somewhere else on the board and place it, so that way you can move them around to the hotspots you require at that time. When you're in an area with a fort, you can recruit legions to come in with you. And according to where we are on the invasion track, tells you how many legions you can recruit for 1 action, and it declines as we go on through as the power of Rome is reducing. At this stage, we could take 2 legions and bring them in here, again helping us in the defence of Tyras. Now, while we've seen the legions defend a city, you can actually be more active with them, and you can fight back against the invaders. For example, if we took these legionnaires down here with us for a move action, we could initiate a battle down here. And you're going to roll battle dice, and the maximum you can roll is 3, and you roll 1 for every legionnaire you have in there. And you're going to get various results. They're going to allow you to remove a barbarian cube where you are, or you might have to remove legionnaires, or there might be a mixture of those 2 things, or there can be a character specific result depending upon which role you're playing, and we'll get to those roles in 1 second. In that way, you can be looking to remove barbarians off the board, hopefully, but also burning up your legionnaires. Now, if you did manage to get every single cube off the board, that would be one way in which you're going to win the game, by removing the presence of all 5 different tribes of barbarians. However, much more likely, you're going to have to forge alliances with some of them and remove the cubes off others. Now, the way you forge an alliance is, it depends upon which tribe you're trying to do it with. There's a certain number of cards of the same colour you must have. You must be in a city with barbarians of that colour. So for example, if I had 5 white cards in my hand and I was in the city here, I could discard all 5 white cards and forge an alliance with the Visigoths. Now, once I'm allied with the Visigoths, I no longer have to remove them from the board back to their supply area in order to win the game. They don't count against me, but they will still continue coming in and attacking, I guess, there's rebellious factions. One thing it will let me do, however, is if I'm in a city and there are Visigoths in there for an action, I can then enlist barbarians, and I can take those off the board and replace them with legionnaires, hopefully making it easier for me to fight back against them. So I either have to remove all the cubes or spend cards to forge alliances with the different barbarian tribes, and if I can do that before they run out or sack Rome, or we decline too far, or the player deck runs out, then I and my team will be victorious in the game of Pandemic Fall of Rome. This has been a Game Pit Pit Stop. For more videos like this, check out our YouTube channel. For more in-depth coverage of games, check out the Game Pit podcast. Thank you.